Welcome back, guys, to HBC Tech. This time I'm going to show you how to change the oil in a reciprocating compressor, semi-reciprocating compressor, and also into a hermetic compressor. And we're also going to be talking about a couple of tools and a couple of different things you can do when you're changing the oil into a system. Okay. Well, first of all, let's start with the tools. Closer. We're going to be using nitrogen, the tank with the regulator to pressurize the system just a little bit. Okay. We're going to use like a small container. You can grab like a plastic container, whatever. This is what I have right now. So, all right, we're going to use an adjustable wrench. We're going to be using the service wrench for refrigeration. We're also going to be using RX11 flush. A little bit of explanation how you can use this chemical. Sometimes also you can use what is called a quick check for the acid test for the oil or for the air conditioning system, refrigeration systems too. Okay. We're also going to be using the gauges, the scale, digital scale to weight the amount of oil that comes out of the compressor, and also the star of the video, which is what's called an oil pump, a manual oil pump. And then also we have some little bit of mineral oil. Good. And there you go. So this is just kind of like the basic tools that we're going to use in order to change the oil from the compressor. Okay. Before we start the video, the process, I need to show you something. Let me grab my towel. Okay. This here, let me put the tools on the side. And this compressor here, it's a coupling compressor, and this is what is called a hermetic compressor, which is made by Copeland. And you call this a hermetic compressor, by the way, reciprocating. Because the compressor is actually sealed and welded from the manufacturer. You can see it's all welded, right? And also you call it a hermetic compressor because there's no way that you could take it apart and fix it. So this is not going to happen. So once the compressor is actually either mechanically damaged, or if it's leaking somewhere around the compressor, or the winding of the compressor is damaged, is burned, then you definitely need to, scrap it and get a new compressor. Okay, so they're kind of, this is a nice thing to have this kind of compressor because there's less leaks. But then once the compressor goes bad, it's pretty much just a throwaway compressor. Okay, so this is a hermetic reciprocating compressor from Copeland. Okay. Also, we're going to show you something else, that this compressor comes with a king valve or service valve attached to it. So you guys can see it's welded. It's actually, you cannot take it off. This is welded into the compressor. So that's another little problem, because if this valve gets damaged, let's say it starts leaking and you cannot stop the leak, then that's going to be a problem, because then you're going to have to replace the compressor. Okay. Now, let me show you another different type of compressor from this side. And this is the famous scroll compressor. Now this was designed especially for air conditioning, and this is once again made by Copeland. Copeland designed this type of compressor. I want you guys to take a look at this, that your suction line actually is not on top. Your suction line is on the kind of like in the middle of the compressor. How do I know this is a suction line? Well, because it's a bigger connection, okay? Now, this is the suction line, and this is the vapor, hot vapor coming out of the compressor. And by the way, this is a scroll compressor. And you can see that it's tall. They're normally tall and they're thin, So that's a scroll compressor. And also, you can notice this because the suction line connection is going to be at the bottom, and the discharge, vapor discharge connection will be at the top, okay? Once again, this compressor, it's a scroll, but it's a hermetic compressor. Why? Because it's sealed or is welded all the way around it. See, everything is welded There's no way you can take it apart, fix it. Once again, once this compressor mechanically or electrically goes bad, it's a throwaway. You know, you can recycle the metal and then just get another compressor. Okay, so scroll compressor. I got a little bit of oil from the pump. Okay, cool. Now let me show you something else here. Then we have what is called the semi-hermetic compressor. Now this is a different story. Now this information is for my day class student, which we're doing refrigeration. The semi-hermetic compressor, as you guys can see, it's completely different. You know, it's not tall, it's not well, it's a little bit short, but it's completely shaped. It's really heavy. Okay, and these semi-hermetic compressors are made of a cast iron. This is all this made of cast iron, and also, if you guys can see, there's a lot of bolts. This actually you could take it apart. That's why it's called a semi-hermetic. You can see all those different bolts here, This is where the pump is. This is where the pistons, the valves and the pistons are located. This is where the winding of the compressor is located. The crankshaft is right in the middle. You can also, let's put it here a little bit on the side. You can also remove this plate also. This is for the bottom part of the compressor. Also, it comes with a side glass. Take a look at that. See if you can see something in there. See, there's a side glass right there. Let me bring a flashlight. Yep. I don't know if you can see a little bit of oil. Maybe not, no? Yeah, no, it should be halfway. The oil amount on the side glass should be halfway, and I'm moving the compressor, there's nothing there. So this is empty. So I'm going to show you first how to charge the oil into the compressor, okay? So that's the side glass. You can see how much oil. There's also a connection here on the side of the compressor where you can take this off to remove the oil from the compressor. And to add the oil to the compressor, you can actually do it through the king valve. Now, this is called the king valve. It's going to have one king valve for the low side, and it's going to have a king valve for the high side. This is the high side, this is the low side. Now, you're probably, wondering, how do I know this? Well, first of all, I'm an instructor. Second of all, I got a lot of experience. And third, we'll bring the camera close, and look what it says right there. There's an L for low pressure. So this L for low pressure, this is for this connection, but then also that tells you this is my low side right there. So this is my low side, right? Now, someone should have not put this cap here. It doesn't belong here. Let me take it off. And by the way, this is why you're supposed to have an adjustable wrench. You're supposed to use an adjustable wrench to remove the caps out of the king valves, right? So please do not use channel locks. Don't use channel locks. Don't use any other type of wrenches. Please use the adjustable ones. Why? Because if you damage this connection right here, then this cap is no good. And let me tell you something. This cap will stop leaks on the stem of the king valve, right? And by the way, that right there, that is called a stem, and this is the whole king valve, which you can replace if you need to. The king valve is attached by 2 screws, 1 and 2 screws, and it has a gasket that you can also replace, okay? And which it brings me to a little bit more information. Remember that I say you can take it apart the whole thing. You can replace the valves on the compressor. You can replace the pistons in the compressor. You can replace a gasket. There's going to be a gasket over here. There will be a gasket. There will be a seal over here. There will be a gasket here. So everywhere there's gasket. If it's leaking, you can actually put new gaskets. Let me check my phone for a second. And also there's a gasket right here on the side glass. So there's places where there's going to be leaks. You can put brand new gaskets. Okay. Now I was talking about the king valve here. You gotta use the proper tools to move the king valve. In this case, we're gonna use what is called the service wrench. And this service wrench comes in with the different sizes right here. I don't remember 100%, but you can see this is a bigger one, medium size, a smaller one. So we're gonna use this one here. I think it's 3/16, 7/16, 5/8, something like that, all right? This one, we're gonna use it here to either back-seated, front-seated, crack, or mid-seated. There's actually 4 positions. Okay, I'm going to show you this in a second. Okay, and the same thing with the high side. They also you have a gasket, you have the key valve, and then you also have a cap, which this is why you have to use a adjustable wrench so you can remove the caps off. Okay, this is, by the way, this is a metal cap. They used to make them out of brass, and then they move into metal, and then now they move into plastic. So you know what's going on. But I mean, as long as you can keep those caps on, then that's good. Okay, this is for my high side pressure. This is for my low side pressure. And well, let me start showing you how would you add oil into the compressor. And the way we're gonna do it is by using a pump, and what you call a container of mineral oil. So let's start doing that. Okay. Now let's just say the system. Let's just say the system that is that it has pressure in the system. Okay. If you have pressure in the system, which means it has freon, this pump, it's able to push. This pump is able to push the oil, even with the pressure in the system. By the way, you would never try to add oil to a system that is running. You're gonna have to shut it off. Okay. So this pump is capable of pushing the oil through the low side, through this valve, all the way down here, even with the pressure in the system. Okay. So what we're gonna do is front seat, just to add some pressure into the system. Front seat, the key valve, which is gonna be clockwise all the way to the front. And front seat, this one, the discharge valve too. Let me see what position it is. Go this way. That will be front seat. Then, what we're gonna do is, we're gonna add some nitrogen. By the way, you guys not gonna be doing this in the field. I'm doing it right now just to show you that even with pressure, you're able to add oil into the system. I'm gonna put my gauges. Put my low side and my high side. Go. We're gonna have to use this valve. Okay. And then I'm gonna put the high side. Okay, and then we're gonna use the nitrogen tank and attach it to the nitrogen. Make sure this is loose. Open the valve first. You only add in no more than 50 psig. Please. This compressor, if you add more than 50 psig of pressure to this compressor, this actually can explode. It comes in pieces. So you don't want to do that. Maximum pressure is 50 psi, and it should be enough pressure. Okay. If it's less, it's possible. It's fine. Okay. So system is connected. By the way, I front seated the key valves, this one and this one, so I can cancel the port, which goes to the condenser, and this is coming from the evaporator, so I cancel that. Okay. And now let's add some nitrogen. Open the gauges. Once again, no more than 50 psig. Here we go, 30. Getting close. And that should be enough. We got about 45 psig. Now we got nitrogen in the system. Good. Now what I'm gonna do is remove this connection, but I'm gonna have to close it here because I cannot move my front seated position. I cannot move it, so I just close that one. Remove this one down. Okay. And now, what I do is bring my scale. Let me take this stuff away. We don't need it right now. Bring my scale. Bring the oil, the mineral oil. Open the container. And since this is a mineral oil, you can leave it open for a while, not a big deal. But if it was a POE, I hear some information that you should not leave it open no more than 20 minutes, okay? If it was POE. But this is mineral oil, it should be no problem. Okay? Now, we put in the oil pump inside the container. Okay? Then we're gonna have to replace this plastic hose with the connection. We're gonna take it off and use a, another hose. Let me get the other hose, please. Okay. Now we're gonna connect this one into the oil pump and this one into the valve. Now remember, the system has a pressure of about 50 psi, just to show you that even with with pressure, you can actually pump in the oil. What I'm doing is I'm closing this connection because it's leaking, so that's why I'm doing that right now for a second. So I saw it's leaking. Okay, good. Okay, now ready? Okay, so what we're gonna do is gonna start pumping the oil from here into the compressor, and we're also gonna be looking is at the side glass, because everything is gonna be based, or everything is gonna be done by looking at the side glass to make sure the oil level doesn't go beyond this point. Okay, so here we go. If you want to use the scale to see how many ounces of oil you put into the system, you can do that, but you don't have to. But I mean, all depends on the company, you know, how much they charge, you know, by the pound or by the ounces. It all depends on the company, okay? I put it to 0. I don't touch anything, put 0, good. And now let's start pumping, okay? Here we go. What I'm gonna do is gonna build pressure. So what I did is building pressure between here all the way up here. And once I build that pressure, now I can open the valve, and believe it or not, you're not seeing it right now, but there's oil going in. Now, how do I know this? Because watch it. Over here, it's -2 ounces right now. So that means I already put 2 ounces of oil into the compressor, okay? Now, let's keep doing it, and let's use the flashlight just to show you. What's up here? Yeah. We're gonna use the flashlight just to show you that the oil is gonna be coming out, right? Here you go. And let's keep going. Oops.